Hello again, my name's Deborah and I am an alcoholic, but that is not all that I am. I am also an overcomer. I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm also a fitness expert. I'm also a bodybuilding competitor. I'm also a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a daughter. I'm a dog mom. So there's a lot of things that are about me besides the fact that I'm alcoholic. I am in recovery, so I am no longer drinking, but I did want to get on here and finish out the story that I've been telling in the previous two videos about kind of exploring the idea of when did I become an alcoholic? Like, when did this happen to me? And I got it targeted to sometime in the years between age 35 and 40, because I know that I achieved sobriety in my 40th year, when I was 40 years old. I did have my big 40th birthday party, so I remember that. That was fun. It was definitely not an alcohol-free birthday party. But later that year is when things came to a head for me in August of that same year. And that's when I became sober. So I'll fast forward to what led me to the point of realizing that I needed to stop drinking. Because in my first two videos, I have talked about my early childhood. I've talked about my young adult years, my teenage years, high school, college, being a young mom. So all of that. And now I'm at the point in my story where I want to kind of tell you what are the things that happened. What were those moments when the clarity started to really, really hit me? So there were three that led me into AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, which is how I chose to approach sobriety. I had told you in the last video about getting suspended from work for day drinking with a coworker. That was completely humiliating for me, because now my little dirty secret, which I knew my drinking was not normal. I knew my drinking was problematic, but I thought that it was just something that was problematic for me. I thought, I'm doing this to myself. As long as I'm not impacting anyone else, then I will just have to deal with it, right? It's just myself that I'm hurting. And at this point, I was using alcohol not only as a social lubricant, but also as a way to escape. And I was at this point in my life where I was becoming increasingly unhappy. I was becoming increasingly dissatisfied with what I was doing in my career. I had spent at this point, it was probably about 15 years in the same company, building into this really prestigious and high-ranking job in my company. I thought I had everything that I'd always wanted. I wanted to be a powerful woman in the business world. I wanted a family. I wanted to be a wife. I wanted to have a nice house and drive nice cars. So I was kind of had all the things, but I was finding that I was just becoming increasingly unhappy with my life. And I'll talk a little bit about that as I got into recovery and started doing therapy, about some things I discovered. But I just knew that at this point, I really just wanted to have every day be over. That was what drinking did for me. It helped the time pass. It helped me get through the day. So I had the first incident of drinking at work, and then the second incident. And as I told you, that sent me to a counselor, a alcoholic addiction counselor, and that counselor never suggested that I stop drinking completely. So I didn't. I thought, well, I'm going to cut back. I'm going to start just drinking only on weekends. I'll only drink with somebody. I'll only, so making these promises to myself to cut back. And I was able to do some of that for a little while, but eventually I slid right back into the old habits. The second incident that happened was I was in a car accident, and I was the only one involved. There was no other cars on the road. Basically, I just lost control of my vehicle. And thank God there were no other cars around. But I ended up rolling my car down an embankment a couple of times. It wasn't a steep embankment, but it was enough to roll my car. And I ended up in somebody's kind of front yard. And, it was all great and good. The EMTs were there, the fire trucks, the paramedics, the police. They were all there taking care of me. And, they're like, we've never seen anybody get out of a wreck like this and just walk away. No bruises, no hurt at all. And they were really, very comforting until the officers found an open bottle of wine in my car. And that's when they gave me the field sobriety test. And while I did not check in as being drunk, being legally drunk, they said, since I was under the influence, I did clock on there that I had some alcohol in my system, that they could arrest me for driving under the influence. But at this time, they were just going to give me a warning. They were going to give me a warning, which I felt incredibly grateful for. I prayed so much. I relived that moment over and over and over, just having nightmares about it, wondering, how did that happen to me? How did I lose control? I don't remember losing control. And then how did I survive that unscathed? And there was a moment when I was driving that I felt like I did not have control of the car, like literally something else had taken over the wheel. And I thought that it was like evil spirits. I thought something evil is here. But I looked back on it and I thought, well, I think it might have been God. Jesus, take the wheel. I really think Jesus took the wheel. And that's why I survived that car wreck, to live another day and make a better, wake up and have another chance at life. I didn't stop drinking. So again, fast forwarding through, again, talking with my husband now, it's kind of out in the open with him, with my mom, that I have a problem. Again, I didn't stop drinking. And the incident that really, really put me over the edge was just a simple night out with my husband and friends. I had been doing my typical thing on a Saturday, drinking kind of from the morning all day long, just sipping on my little cup. And when we went out again at night, I tried to take a little break and kind of take a little nap, because I knew it's like, okay, I've had enough to drink, but it's over a longer span of time and I just need to take a break and then I'll be able to go out. Well, it didn't go so well. And, I continued to drink with the friends at dinner. And I just remember the next day, my husband kind of pulled me aside and said, honey, I know you didn't get as drunk as you were last night at dinner just from drinking with us. And he said, this is a problem. And if you need to go to AA to fix it or to figure it out, then that's what you need to do, because obviously nothing else is working. And I had done my research on AA and I knew that it was a program of abstinence, like complete abstinence. And that is why I was avoiding it like the plague. I did not want to have to face up to the fact that I could never drink again, because drinking was so important to my life. And I really did consider my cold glass of Chardonnay my best friend. It was kind of the thing that I looked forward to every day, that made every day kind of worth getting up for. So I did. I went to AA that very same week, and it was like a light bulb had come on in my head, because I felt so much shame and so much just embarrassment and just shame about who I had become and the person that I was. And, I'm like, how can I be this mom? How can I be a wife? How can I be a corporate exec? How can I be, a woman that goes to church and that leads, Girl Scout troops? And how can I be that person and be this other person? I must be the very worst person of all. When I went to AA, though, I walked in, I can tell you about that story again, but I realized that these people they got me. They were like me. They didn't look like me. They may not come from the same places as me, but they were me. And so that was really resonated with me. And I resolved, this is what I need to do, and it's going to be okay. And so I went in, I did that. I was there for 2 weeks, going to meetings every day. And I had a business trip coming up, and business trips were always one of those occasions where I always drank. There was always free liquor. So yes, I went on that trip, and I was anxious about going and not drinking, because I had never done that. Remember, social lubricant, I had never done that before, and I was very anxious about it. And so I kind of started preparing myself to give myself that, well, you're doing so much better. And, let's see if this is okay. Let's see if we can do this. So I did go on that trip and I drank, and it didn't go well. I blacked out. That was the first time that I realized that I had a blackout. And I didn't even know what that was before. Maybe I'd had them before. In fact, I believe that when I was driving and had that accident, that I did have a blackout while I was driving. So again, I went on that trip and I had that blackout, and I just remember the next morning when I was in my hotel room, and I just fell to my knees and I literally said, "Dear God, please, please, let this all be okay. I pray to God that, I didn't do anything that I have regretted the night before, because I didn't remember. And please let me get home safe to my family. And I promise that I am going back to AA, and I'm going to do this, and this is what I have to do." And I did. I went back that very day, Monday that I got back. I went back to a meeting, and I have been sober ever since. So that's my kind of reflection back on, how did I get to this point? And, since then, in sobriety, I've done a lot of counseling, sought a lot of help. And, you realize that the isms, we call it, alcoholism, isn't the only ism that most of us that are alcoholic have. There's other isms. I mean, I have a very addictive personality. I mean, I had eating disorders growing up, binge eating, purging, things like that. When I dive into something, I dive in all the way, like whatever it is, building a business or my fitness, I just go all in and get super, like almost obsessive about it. So I've definitely done a lot of kind of research and reflection on myself with the help of professionals, and learned a lot about some of the things that maybe I was trying to avoid, the pains and the hurts from the past that were the things that I was trying to escape every day and not think about and just get through. And I'm happy to share more of those stories going forward. But this concludes my 3-part series on how and when did I become an alcoholic. And I hope it was helpful. I hope, this maybe spurs some questions from other people, and I'm happy to answer those questions. I really am an open book when it comes to this. It is no longer a shameful part of my life, but it's just a part about who I am. It's given me so much growth in myself. I would not be the person that I am today. My husband reminds me, and I'll leave this with you if you're watching and wondering, how did you get to be this person? That my husband reminds me of what a strong person I am, because I have done the hardest thing that most people will ever do in their lives, and that is to give up an addiction. I have survived, and I am in recovery, and it's a lifetime of recovery from an addiction. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. So I know I can do hard things, and I have done many hard things since, which again, that strength of knowing that I can do these hard things has really been a bolster to me in many areas of my life, becoming an entrepreneur, taking on some of the challenges that I have. So thank you again for listening. My hope from sharing and turning my mess into a message is always that it's helpful to somebody, and that it will bring you to a point in your life of more clarity. So thank you. God bless.